So, in today's episode, I'm pulling back the curtain a little more. Today's story is a big one. My husband and I are moving again. Yes, another big transition. I'll tell you where, why, and what this move is stirring up in me, emotionally, financially, spiritually, because it's not just about changing zip codes. It's about dreams, discomfort, and shedding some timelines I thought I needed to follow. So without further ado, let's get into it. How are you today, and how is April treating you so far? I'm recording this episode on the 7th of April, and we have been now 7 days into April, and also we have been spring. We've been in spring for a couple of weeks or days, so I'm wondering how everything's been so far, if your plate is full, if you are busy, or if you are just able to enjoy life, the change of seasons, and how your heart is. Is your heart full? Is your heart a bit empty? Have you gone through some emotional turmoil? Tell me. You can also always respond via my DMs or leave a comment after this podcast has published. I want to hear from you. I'm really interested in how you are and want to have that a bit as a community where we've got each other's back. And, my mission here is really to bring to the forefront also my challenges, my problems, in the hopes of that whether you can relate or you have been through something very similar, that at least inspires you to, take actions or see that other people's lives is not necessarily better, juicier, more exciting, but that we are all humans facing the same emotions and also the challenges of feeling them or not. And also that's the reason why I want to bring a little bit more personal stories, like what's going on in my life into these episodes, not just, teaching you how to be a better communicator, how to show up more assertive, how to shed those politeness conditioning from our women's soul. I also want to just share what's going on behind the scenes, because people ask, people are interested, and to be very honest, I crave authenticity so much. I love tuning into podcasts where people share, but not something curated, but something sometimes raw. I have shared something really raw last week that I actually didn't want to share as much. I don't want my authenticity to become a commodity, but I also thought I want to share how I process trauma, how it showed up in my life. And hence because I'm craving people who are really honest and don't always pretend to have their shit together, I thought I want to bring that into my episodes too, because, you can share information, valuable information that might change the trajectory of your journey in various aspects of your life, in relationships, at work, in your romantic relationships, also especially the relationship you have with yourself. On the other hand, spicing those episodes up with a little bit more what's going on behind the scenes or in my life might also just be absolutely something that you might be like to listen. So here we go. Here we just dive right into the big question: am I moving again? So the short answer is yes. My husband and I will be moving end of June, mid of June. We are leaving California. We are leaving for mostly one main reason, and on the other hand, this main reason has been something that I have been manifesting for many years. So my husband and I moved from Boston, Massachusetts, which my husband and I disliked. We don't like New England. We don't like the East Coast of the US. It's not our vibe. And we moved to our dream state, a dream state that I was very well aware that has its icky problems. icky problem. So if you are not so much familiar with the US landscape, leaving all the politics aside, I'm not going into any rabbit hole here, but California is currently a state where most people are, like, it's the biggest economy in the US as a state. And if California would be a country, it would be one of the strongest economies worldwide. It's really tremendously powerful. Yet it has problems that I was aware of when we moved, and I was actually really interested to see what I'm going to think about it. So, one of the main problems about California and why people are leaving is because you are paying shit loads of taxes for very little in return. So, my husband and I are living in a bubble. So, we are living in one of the wealthiest areas. We are living on the coast. And if you live on the coast of California, that is cool. That is where you get all the fantastic things that you think of when you think of California. So you have beach, you have beautiful coast, you have stunning beaches, you have, a very mild winter. The summer is not too hot. It's actually very moderate. I've never been like as hot here as I have been in other places, back in Austria or in Massachusetts, for example. Boston is super hot in summer. So it's always been a delight. And Californian people are chill. It's all cool. People are super friendly. And this is basically just the highlights. And the big drawbacks are that you're paying a lot of taxes. And outside of the bubble where I live with my husband, bubble meaning the area, here, Newport Beach is clean, it's safe, it's really well organized. There are tremendously wealthy people living here. Like, the density of Rolls Royce, G-Wagons, Bentleys, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches is absolutely stunning. I've never seen so many amazing cars. And I love those cars. To be honest with you, I adore them. They are amazing. And this is something that you can just feel. People are wealthy and rich, and I absolutely love that vibe. I've always manifested this. But then if you drive half an hour inland, for example, these sceneries, the people are changing. And I'm not saying that, people are changing in a negative, not at all. But the absolute big gap between rich and poor is so palpable. And it's also palpable. The houses are tiny. Sometimes you see trailer parks or sprinkled in between the motorway. You see a lot of dirt, garbage. It's absolutely dirty, and you can see that it's not well maintained overall. And my husband and I were like, this is actually not that cool, because we had this impression, because every time we came here for vacation, and we lived in Newport Beach 4 years ago, we got married here. We always thought that California is like this everywhere, but it's not. It's just on the coast. Inland is just honestly shitty. And of course, there are some towns and cities that are better. Palm Springs is inland and it's wealthy and it's beautiful as well. But then, like around Palm Beach, when we are supercharging the Tesla, when we go on a road trip, it's like you can just tell it's a poorer area, and the density of McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, all those shitty fast food chains is so high. And you can just see, like, the food choices are super poor, and it's not cool, to be honest. And it's very hard for me, especially coming from Europe, to see this big wealth and poor, gap. It's something that I still have not really wrapped my head around. So, okay, that's about California, and I can definitely see why people are leaving. And we paying a lot of tax, and obviously we get a lot of things out of here. But when it comes to salaries, you can get higher salaries elsewhere, to be honest with you. So anyway, and Now you're asking yourself, where are we moving? Why am I holding that bag, huh? Okay, I'm gonna tell you now. We are moving to my dream, which is where I always make vacations. Every year we are going there. Can you guess? If you've been around my life and my Instagram stories, you have guessed it right. We are moving to Miami. We are moving to Miami, Florida. And I am absolutely excited, and I have not fully comprehended that we're moving. It's such a big manifestation and dream coming true. It's absolutely crazy. And the good thing in Miami or in Florida is that we don't pay any state tax. So this is really cool because here in California, generally speaking, and I explain this because I have a lot of people outside of the US listening and tuning in. So if you live in the US, you pay state tax. So I pay taxes for California and I pay taxes for the government, for the federal. And that is all cool. Yet there are states in the US like Florida where you don't pay taxes to Florida, you just pay the federal taxes, which is really cool. And I love that. And we are talking income tax. So, whenever I earn a living here with a regular job, you pay taxes. In Austria, you just pay federal income tax that's collected by the federal government or by the government itself. And here in the US, you pay taxes twice. But to be honest with you, I pay so much less taxes even in California compared to Austria. In Austria, which is an absolute shit show when it comes to taxes, I paid over 40% of my whole income just in taxes. And here in the US, I think overall I'm paying like maybe 10%, if at all, 10, 12, which is a huge difference. So, and that is what makes me really excited because my husband and I calculated what we would save every year with our two incomes, and the number is staggering. It's absolutely like, wow. So, yeah, we are moving, and we're moving because my husband got a job offer that we could not resist. And we could not resist because he earns amazing salary, and obviously it is in our absolute dream location. It's the location that my husband and I since 7 years go every year for vacation. I don't know if I've been to Miami, but Miami is very high vibe. The energy is really high in Miami. You are also next to this beautiful turquoise blue water that's warm, lukewarm in summer, warm enough in winter to still go swimming. Here in the Pacific, I mean, last year I didn't go a single time into the water because even in summer it is cold. The Pacific doesn't really get warm. It's dark blue, it's very powerful, and it's still beautiful because the beaches are stunning. But it's not the ocean that you would think that you can go into the water. So Miami is my absolute dream. And it's so interesting because it's also that I want to share with you how important it is to really get rid of all your timelines in life. My husband and I first went to Florida 2017. We've been together for 2 years. We flew down from Boston to Miami and we stood there a couple of days. And it was very interesting that back then our budget was like obviously way, way lower. It's like my husband didn't earn as much. He was still doing research in the lab. And I was earning my salary in Austria, which wasn't that high either compared to what I'm earning in the US. And so we were on a very low budget. We, rented very cheap Airbnbs. And the moment I arrived in the airport in Miami was something I will never forget, because I got outside of the airport because the departure hall where you wait for your luggage was so cold, and I was so crazy that I told my husband, let me get out there because I'm so cold waiting. And he said, yeah, sure, go out there. So I'm going out there, and the first things I noticed were three things. I noticed a beautiful palm tree. I noticed an exotic plant next to me that was blossoming in all its colors, like all these flashy red, orange, white, really bright colors. I don't know the name of the plant, but I remember it as it was yesterday. And I noticed a high humidity, which I don't mind. I don't mind humid weather, even though some people really hate it, but I love it. And I was like, what the fuck did I get myself into? But in the most positive sense, obviously. And Miami and its nature is so lush. It's so exotic. When I first in my life saw an orchid growing out from a tree, I was like, oh my God, I'm an absolute orchid lover. And when I see orchids, like I have orchids, like 95% of my flowers or plants, not flowers, are orchids. And I tell my husband, whenever you want to bring me flowers or plants, let it be an orchid because I don't want anything else. A small hint, tell your husbands or your boyfriends what you want. Don't, expect them to mind read. Tell them what you want, and I guarantee you they will stick to it happily because they know how to make you happy. Also, a guarantee of not having disappointments ever. I mean, ever is a bit of an exaggeration, but for Valentine's Day or when my husband really wants to give me something cute, he gifts me with an orchid. Back to Miami, so that's where I fell deeply in love with. And yeah, you have like so much water around you. And I'm a Cancer and Cancers love water. I adore water. I either need mountains or I need water. And the reason why I need mountains is because I needed, because I grew up in mountains, next to mountains, big mountains. So that's what I'm most familiar with. And I love water. So either of those two are amazing. And I have to say, California was my first big manifestation because I was always dreaming of an ocean and mountains in the back. And you have that here in California. And it's really unique, like that, where people say like you can go snowboarding one in the morning and you can go swimming in the afternoon is absolutely true because if I would leave here now to go snowboarding or skiing, it would take me an hour, 1.5 or so drive to the mountain. So it's really nothing. Yeah, so we are moving to Miami. We're moving end of June, most probably. And yeah, it's been a huge manifestation. And I remember every time I come to Miami, I tell my husband, what about living here? That would be such a dream. And I felt like we would be far away from the dream. And one thing I have learned in my life when it comes to manifestation is if you let go of a timeline and the thought of like, that's never going to happen because my current reality is so far from what I want. If you let go of that, I promise you, you live your best life until the manifestation kicks in, which is awesome. I never thought Miami will work out. I manifested it every time I came there. I was dreaming about it. I was visualizing it. If you'd ask myself where I would see myself, I would see myself in Florida in a nice beachy town. And yet I didn't know how to realize it because our number one priority was to get out of Massachusetts and to move to California. And we actually managed that. That was a priority manifestation. And yeah, and I thought actually last year when we moved here that we're going to stay here, that we are not moving anywhere else. And my husband will find a job here. And he has a lot of job offers in California. It's not that, we are without any offers or he's without any offers, but the offers are not as juicy and not as well paid. And then of course, the state tax as well. So it's so much more lucrative to go to Miami. So yeah, we just, decided it would be a no-brainer. And yeah, it's been just fantastic to see how things are changing and how things are manifesting in the end in the best way possible. I would have never thought last year that a year later I'm sitting here recording a podcast and telling you that we are moving to Miami. And yeah, so that's something that is going on in my life. And now we are looking into apartments, obviously. And you know what is also a funny thing? On Friday, we are leaving on vacations. And guess where we are going up for vacations? And when we booked that trip, we had zero clue. I promise you, zero clue in October that we are going to live there. So on Friday, we fly out to Miami. My family is coming, so we do family vacations in Miami. My mom is coming. My mom, and I'm so happy because my mom is she is so deeply rooted in that house that I grew up in that area that I grew up in the depth of Austria. She just does not want to fly. She is old. She is not in the mood to fly. She has anxiety a bit when it comes to flying, and she actually agreed to join the trip. So it's my sister's family and my mom coming, and I cannot tell you how excited I am. So we booked the trip in October, and I was so happy to come back to Miami and super excited and happy and all that stuff, not knowing that a few months later I'm actually gonna move there. So what we're gonna do next week is we are going to see some apartments. We are checking out some areas. We, of course, know the area that we want to live in, so the number one area. But as with everything in life, we are not too attached to certain areas or certain yeah we are just open, and next week we are going to visit some other areas that we know where this area is, but we never came there to check out to live there, so we want to feel out the vibe. And so there is Miami, and then across Miami there is Miami Beach. This is a peninsula basically, and Miami Beach is where it's all vibey, all young people live. It's very touristy too, so most of the tourists come to Miami Beach. It has the most gorgeous beaches you can imagine, like white sand, fine white sand, blue turquoise water. And yeah, there's one hotel after the other, and there are shopping streets, and yeah, it's really vibey. And then there is the end of this peninsula is south of Fifth. It's the very end of Miami Beach, and that's where the real estate prices are so high, because obviously it's less touristy. A lot of expensive restaurants are located there. It's a bit more low key and less like loud and vibey. It's more like where the wealth is sitting, as well. So there are many wealthy areas around Miami, but south of Fifth is one of the more pricey one. Yeah, so that is our absolutely favorite area, but again, we are not attached to anything. We keep our ego in check and say, like, we will, rent where everything, ticks the boxes, and not just, oh, the area is nice, but then the apartment has drawbacks or something. So, yeah, so that's what's going on. And it's fun to have my family there, and knowing that in a couple of months I can just tell them, hey, come back, and by the way, this time you don't need a hotel. Now you can stay with us in the apartment. And we were also contemplating if we should rent a house, our first house. It's definitely a dream of my husband and I, but we're not feeling yet ready for a house, because think about it, house is a lot of work. We have the garden, it's a big house. Like, houses in the US are usually not small. I mean, you can get small houses, but uh, houses that are in a certain price range and in certain areas are tend to be bigger. So even if the rent is a certain amount, you have to calculate that you have to have a gardener. If you have a pool, you need someone to take care of the pool, because I don't have the time to take care of the whole house, including the garden. And in the US, everything is just at your fingertips. You just, I don't know, like, order a service every month or every week, someone coming over and taking care of those things you don't want to. And there's so many costs associated with a house, that we say like we feel more comfortable now with an apartment, and whenever we feel the need of getting more grounded and finding a house, we will do that. And for now, we dream of an apartment with ocean view or partial ocean view. So, the whole package. So we kind of see how that pans out. And yeah, it's a journey, I have to say. I'm super excited. Like when you reach a big manifestation goal, it feels good. On the other hand, of course, it's like, whew, it's exciting, and then also some fears kick in naturally. I sometimes feel like, what if that doesn't pan out the way? What if it's not coming true? What if I get sick? They're really, the brain, when something so good happens, often goes into like, yeah, but what if I get sick? What if this? What if that? So it's weird. Not everything is just, obviously a dream and oh my God, everything is amazing. There are a lot of things coming. There are fears coming along as well. It's never like seamless. And then, we're also thinking of going back to Europe for a couple of weeks because my husband has a month or two of break. But then, how do we feel that time? Do we really want to stay in Europe? And then I have to work because in my corporate job, I don't have many vacation days because in the US, I guess you get 2 to 3 weeks. And that is already a lot. And for me, it's like a joke, but that's what it is. So I would have to work while we travel, which is cool, flexible, and a dream. On the other hand, I have to work according to, the US time zone, which is not always that funny. So always remember, everything has its good and bad, or its challenges. Every dream has its challenges too, and not everything is that easy. And I have fears that I didn't know before. As I said before, I'm always, when I'm manifesting something, I'm like, oh, what if I get, again, if I get sick, or this is normal. It's normal that comes with it, and that's also the price that you pay, that you're getting a bit scared as well, because it's an uncertain time of your life. What if in the end of the day, the dream of living in Miami turns out to be a nightmare? Maybe you don't like it. Maybe it's going to be way too hot, way too humid. Because obviously, I never lived in Miami. I've always been there just on vacations. So, all these positive and welcoming vibes and feelings I had were from the lens of making, as a, of vacationing and not like living there. Does that mean that I have the air conditioning on all the time because it's very hot and I don't like air conditioning, even though I appreciate that it exists? But there are all those things that, and then obviously there are hurricanes and there are very heavy rainstorms. I have experienced one, and it is crazy how it rains there. And I have dogs that are depending on being taken out, and there are all these questions and all these like, will I like it? Will I now say, oh, I'm happy to leave California and see only the bad of California, and then like, oh, Miami will be just a dream and will solve and fix everything. And I know it won't, right? It's never like that. And I know that there will be downsides living in Miami. At the same, when I came to California, I knew there were some things that I was interested in, how I feel about it once I experience it, right? So not just knowing that this exists, but how do I feel about it if it affects me, or if that is a living experience, it becomes a living experience. And the same of like moving to Miami. Now I'm praising it and it's a dream, and of course I'm celebrating this success. On the other hand, I'm like, what challenges will come? And I'm not overthinking, I'm not sabotaging manifestations or successes, but I'm also very much rooted in reality and knowing that on one hand it's amazing, on the other hand, what challenges are awaiting me there. Because every time you uprise in life, if you reach another stage of life, another level of maturity, other problems occur. Other other packages of challenges, problems, concerns, worries. And I just want to flag that because I hate nothing more than just being dreamy and telling how amazing this is and talking bad about the other thing. And then, you realize afterwards that actually, all the good things have its drawbacks too. And there will be. Some of them I'm aware, some of them I'm not aware. So we'll see. I mean, the only good thing is I'm also closer to Europe than I am from LA. That is positive something because we haven't been traveling home for over 1.5 years because, yeah, LA is far away from Europe and I just didn't want to take my dogs for such a long flight. And yeah, so I'll definitely travel more to Europe and also within the US, I guess. So that will be exciting. And that is what is on, what's happening now in my life. And I want to share that life update with you and celebrate it with you. And yeah, and then, I'll bring you along the whole journey of moving and then also how it is if we land there and if we get settled there. And yeah, I'll then really shed lights of the dream and tell you honestly how things come along and how much I don't know right now, what's still, to come, but doesn't matter anyway. And I also want to just, recognize you and thank you so much for listening, tuning in, and being on the journey with me, and coming along. And if you have any questions, if you feel like, hey, can you talk more about this topic? I want to know more about that. Please DM me on Instagram at @FemMagical or, leave a comment. I honestly just want to hear from you. I want to know what are some of the questions you have, what you want to hear more of, because, sometimes I hear from people. Sometimes I'm just, know that this is what my clients are asking. It can be everything. It can be personal. It can be something about authenticity and being vulnerable and or having a work conflict. It's one of my specialties. It became one of my specialties because I have a lot of people having work conflicts. So whatever it is, feel free to reach out and I'm here for you. And again, thank you so much for listening and I'm gonna speak to you next week. Okay, bye my love.